Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Star Trek Discovery, the final season, season 5, episode 1, Red Directive. So, I had really no idea this even premiered. Like, when it just popped up, I'm like, oh, I knew it was coming out soon, I just didn't know when. And so, okay, here's the thing before I start off. If anybody has ever listened to any of my Star Trek reviews and stuff, you know I don't like new Trek. And more importantly, I really don't like Star Trek Discovery. Starting all the way back from season 1, episode 1. Season 1 and 2, in my opinion, are just the worst because they just don't even feel like Star Trek. Season 3 tried to be a bit more Star Trek, balancing new and old Trek, but didn't particularly do a good job because they kept leaning into more new Trek. Season 4, like I said last year, I believe, or maybe earlier this year, felt like the most old Trek when it came to Discovery. So even though season 4 isn't like perfect by no means, it feels more like old Trek. And so because of that of season 3 and 4, I was in a good place to where, I could be more at ease when watching Star Trek Discovery. However, since this is the final season, the first episode, at least so far by the first episode, don't know about the rest, they wanted to lean more into season 1 and 2 that irritated the fans. And the things that irritated the fans irritated me because I am a huge Star Trek fan. And when I kept seeing all this stuff, it just annoyed me. There's an abundance of lens flares just everywhere for no reason. Michael Burnham is doing the whole solo thing again, and she's captain, and that's something that bugged me in the past. Tilly is back to being Tilly Tally and everything, just like her tilliness of all things, like just her silliness, and I didn't like that. Riding on top of like a starship as it's going into high warp and riding it like a surfboard. Why? Like I thought they was moving away from that crap, but now they're right back to it. At least for the first episode. So, this first episode is both a love and a hate letter to Star Trek fans. It's a love letter to Star Trek fans who love New Trek and love the first 2 seasons of Discovery. And it's a hate letter to all the fans that hate New Trek and all the craziness that they do. The flipping of the camera, the shaky cam, the lens flares, Michael Burnham doing the solo thing, Tilly being a child, just like, sorry about that, my camera died, but they did all those things that really annoyed people. And so it's just like, it was a love and a hate letter. And and plus, I'm old now, so all that flashiness just hurts my eyes, man. Like it just hurts. But anyway, so when the episode starts off, we see Michael Burnham and she's surfing along a starship. We don't know what kind of starship, but it's going at high warp. I'm all like, oh God, not this crap again. But then it goes to 4 hours earlier and everybody is at HQ. We learned that Saru has gotten a higher up position to be an ambassador and everything, which is going to take him away from that of his girlfriend. That was a nice, touching, sweet moment. And I like moments like that between him and his girlfriend. Then, Michael, she gets like new orders to go on a mission. And so when she's talking to the admiral and talking to that one dude with the glasses, whose name I forgot, they're in like this white room and everything. And, I don't mind the white room because they're in the 32nd century. So I'm expecting a lot of stuff to be different from old Trek. So I appreciate this. I just want to know how they get in and out. Like, is it a holodeck? Like, what kind of room is it? You know what I'm saying? Like, it'll be nice to elaborate, but this is brand new. So he sends her on a mission and they go on the Red Directive. Something we've never heard before. So I'm like, okay, this is back to season 1 where they're bringing up new terms that people have never heard of before, And so it cuts from at some point from that to go to the Romulan ship. And I like the new advancements of the Romulan ship. Like, because It's newer, it's advanced in the century that they're in, and we see two people on the ship. One appears to look human and everything, named Maul, and what is it? She's played by Eve Hollow, and I love myself from Eve Hollow. She's come a long way with her acting, so I'm always happy and excited to see her. The guy's name I forgot, starts with a K. Crawl, I think it is, or something like that. And he has green skin. I don't recognize his species, but they did bring up the brain and everything. And so as I'm watching, I'm just like, what kind of species is he and everything? And so, like, I think he might be brain because we never seen what the faces of them look like. But anyway, he has heavy prosthetics on, similar to that of season 1. And so they're looking for something, and they mention that whatever the thing is they want, Starfleet does not want them to have it. So at some point in time, the Discovery crew beam aboard the ship. And Burnham, she brings with her for the first real time her security officer, whose name I do not know. It might be Bryce or something like that. See, with Discovery, here's the thing. People don't really know the main bridge crew name, the main, let me say it, the main bridge crew officers' names, because they rarely tell us, and I'm not about to look on Wikipedia to find out, but it's the Asian dude and everything. And she finally brought her security officer on an away mission longer than 10 seconds. The first time she did it was last season, but then she sent him right back to the ship. And he's finally on an away mission, her security officer. In 5 seasons, this dude finally got to go on a real away mission and got to hold a phaser in his hand. This is what I'm talking about when I say this show doesn't feel like Star Trek and everything. So they find a Romulan and they discover that he's over 800 years old. So it's curious to know what's on this ancient ship and everything. And so they find the two intruders and everything, and it's a nice little phaser battle. But it's a weird kind of phaser battle. I'm not quite sure what the world was going on at first, but it is intriguing. They have these like the people in Starfleet now. They have these like portable like force fields, which is nice. I think this is the first real time they've done that in the show, which I'm cool with because they're in the 32nd century. I remember Worf had something like that when he created it on the holodeck in TNG. And so the weapons that these bad people have, it immobilizes them to where they can't move. But guess who it immobilizes? It immobilizes the security officer and the operations officer, whose name I still don't know. And of course, Michael Burnham is the only one left standing. So she's in pursuit. And something else that's really neat is that we learn for the first time that their small phaser pistols can turn into a phaser rifle. That is neat. I like that. Why did it take them so long to do that in Star Trek Discovery? So, she tries to talk to them and everything, and we see that they have a Romulan puzzle box and everything. That was so secretive. Now, before they went on this mission, the dude with the glasses, he told Burnham that, like, you must get whatever it is, or you must secure that ship at all costs, even if it means killing the intruders on board. And because, the main priority is to secure that ship for this puzzle box. So they get away. What it was, they had like a grenade, and the grenade disintegrated the floor beneath her, and so she fell off into space. So she activated her environmental suit. And this is where we get to the beginning of the episode when she lands on top of the ship that the people are trying to get away on. And so they engage at a high warp. And the first thing that came to my mind is, how in the world are you even alive? And I don't care if you're magnetized to like the ship. You should have fell off because the force of the warp speed should have demagnetized you. And because, it's just an environmental suit. and it should have and so you should have fell off, or something should have hit you and everything. I know when they go in warp, they're in like a bubble and everything, so technically nothing can't hit them, but something had to, like, do something to force her off it. But no, she's riding it like a surfboard, and she even says, how am I still alive, which is so meta. I knocked my camera over. And I'm just like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I don't want to see this in Star Trek. Like, I really, really don't. Cause like I thought they was getting away from this craziness, and like I said before, the camera spinning around, there's lens flares everywhere, and it's just so bright and jarring to your eyes. And this is a callback to not only JJ Star Trek, but to Kurtzman's earlier years in Star Trek. And so another starship comes to like aid assistance and everything. The Taurus, I think. I can't remember the name of it. And they put it in a tractor beam. And so why didn't they just beam Burnham up? But she's like, no, I'm cutting through the hole and I'm gonna get whatever they stole, and blah 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 and blah blah blah. And so she has no choice but to disengage. And when she disengaged, the vessel went into even higher warp and everything. The thrust of all that should have busted her suit wide open or something. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, how in the world is she alive? Oh, because she's Michael Burnham and she always survives and everything. And that really irritated the crap out of me. I don't even care if they're in the 32nd century and their suits are more advanced. She should have died or been broken up into a million pieces or something. Like, it doesn't, like, I don't care. This is like just stupid. But once again, she disobeyed orders, and like, the people got away with the puzzle box. So when she's back on board Discovery, she does not get reprimanded, and that pisses me off. She never does. And so like she used to get reprimanded back in, like, the first season, but then they started like, okay, you're Burnham, you do whatever you want. And so we get a scene with Tilly, who's back and talking. It's just a weird Tilly scene where she's flirting with the guy. So she's finally going to get a love interest. And we don't know nothing about this guy. We don't know how they met or anything like that. It's just sprung on us. And it's just the most Tilliness of Tilliness and everything. And so we go back, and Burnham's all like, we need to track that warp ship, but they're going like their warp trails in so many different directions, blah blah. She's like, oh, I know somebody who can like find out where they are. So of course we have Book coming back, which I knew he was coming back, but the dude's a literal fugitive and everything. He's a criminal, and at the end of the last season, he didn't even get in trouble. After all the bad stuff he did, it's like prison does not matter in New Trek no more. Like with the whole Agnes Dorati or whatever her name is, throw people in prison, man. If it was good enough for Tom Paris, it's good enough for them. But anyways, so of course, with all the advancement that Starfleet has and all the Starfleet officers, they can't track this ship, but only Book can. And he has a contact in the region of space that they are in. So they head there, and it's more of a non-warp society where they have like dirt bikes and this and that, which now the trailer makes sense as to why they're on dirt bikes. Personally, I don't like seeing motorized vehicles in Star Trek. This happened all the way back in Star Trek Nemesis, and I've just never liked that ever since. So this is kind of like a callback to that. So while down in the marketplace on this alien planet, Maul and Lau, they meet Fred, the contact that Book is supposed to meet. And he turns out to be an android, which they use still to this day, use the word Siths. And I don't know why they called him that. I just call them androids and stuff. But he's in the image of Data. So he must have been one of those earlier models that Nguyen Singh made down on the planet, or the ones that Starfleet, they don't look like the ones Starfleet had that was slave labor. It looks more like the one that was down on that planet with the yellow skin and this and that. He has mannerisms of Data and stuff, and that was a nice little fun callback and everything. But he said that the alien dude said that, he hasn't seen one of these in a long time. And so it's interesting to see that they have taken on a life of their own and everything. And so, like, it would have been crazy. They would have got Brent Spiner to play Data, and Data is, of course, still alive and everything. Because, Data technically isn't supposed to die unless he malfunctions or whatever. And so they have him, they trade a bunch of crap. And one of the things is the puzzle box, which he is the only one who can open because, he's an android and stuff. And so, like, it turns out there's a book inside, and he's flipping through the pages and everything, and I don't recognize the alien language in there, but like, he only wants to give them 3 bars of Latinum for. That reminded me of Quark so much. Anyway, so they pretty much just kill everybody there with hand-to-hand combat, and then they grab some like phasers and stuff, and they just straight up kill Fred. And I'm just like, aw, poor Fred. And so Book and Burnham, they're on the planet and they're looking for like the dealer, right? And of course, she doesn't bring no other member on her ship. And I hate that, because stop making it all about her. It's supposed to be Star Trek, a group of people and stuff. Anywho, so those two haven't seen each other in months since what happened last season. And why isn't he in jail? But the captain from the other ship is down there as well, and he doesn't like the interaction between these two. It seems like he's harboring some ill feelings towards Book and everything, and he's constantly just bossing them around. But for the most part, I do like this other captain. I just wish I knew what species he was, 'cause I don't recognize his ears. So anyways, they beamed the android back on the ship. And I'm thinking, okay, so we're gonna see probably Stamets and Jet Reno, right? Now, Jet Reno is only gonna be a recurring character this season. I don't get it. She's the chief engineer, and she never really does any engineering stuff except for last season, like 1 or 2 times, and that was it. Why not just hire somebody who can be there full time? Because she's never on the freaking show, because she's doing other projects. This is so weird to have a Star Trek show with not a chief engineer. So of course, she's not the one examining the memories of the android. It's Stamets, which makes sense because he's a science officer. But it's also the doctor. And the doctor, I'm thinking to myself, how in the world does this man know anything about engineering and androids and their synthetic brain and positronic brains and this and that? He's not qualified, just like he wasn't qualified to be a counselor. But since they never have anything for this dude to do, they have him doing everything else. So Stamets is all like, there's a lot of wiring in his head, and they bring up Soon's name and everything. Star Trek fans should know this. Like, they don't have to explain it, you know what I'm saying? They don't have to explain Soon and this and that. We know who built this android, all right? We know it was like, based on like, the early days of one of his descendants and this and that. Anyway, Stamets is going to get a bunch of wires to hook it up to the android and hook it up to the ship because, their ship has been remodified and this and that. Speaking of which, I think there's a new console on the bridge where a science officer stands now. That's just neat. But anyway, I'm thinking it's the 32nd century. You have better scanners now. You just can't scan his head and get his memory files without hooking it up to like the computer or like a console and everything. I mean, come on, you're in the 32nd century. Give me some really high-tech stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, even back in the day on Voyager, they could scan something and get, like, they can download all the, like, they can get a tricorder, an old-fashioned tricorder, scan like a console and get all the memories off it and stuff. They can't do this here without hooking him up like Data just to give us a data reference and stuff. I mean, come on, man. So Tilly was given a mission by Burnham to hack into Starfleet Command to find out what is so secretive about this mission, because even the Admiral Vance dude doesn't even know. She gets caught by security for Vance to come in, and he wants to know too what this big mission is all about. Now down on the planet, Burnham, the captain, and Book are on kind of like these motorcycle bike things that kind of like hover, and like they can hover on like on sand, because it's like a sand type desert planet, right? And so it's a high pursuit. They're trying to like chase down like the two bad guys, Locke. That's his name, Locke and Maul. And so like it's very Star Wars like, but it is filmed very nicely and everything, right? Now, there's some meta-ness in this where the new captain dude, he wants, I think, his ship to fire on like a cliff or mountainside to like, stop like the two bad guys and everything. Burnham's all like, no, don't do that. You be putting people's lives in danger and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that. But he's too impulsive and he goes ahead and does it anyway. And she gets irritated talking about, who did this remind you of? And no, 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 no. She's all like, he's so impulsive, and Book's all like, gee, I wonder who that reminds me of. Just to be meta, to show that, yo, this is what Burnham does every season. But instead of being meta, why not just have them, gee, I don't know, not do that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just stop doing this crap, man. But anyways, it gives the bad guys the idea to fire their torpedoes on the mountain and cause kind of like a big sand avalanche and everything, which now put the colony in danger. So Discovery has to figure out a way to save them. And I'm thinking to myself, why don't they have two starships. Why don't they just do an emergency beam up and beam everybody up as much as possibly as they can, and send out the shuttles and beam out more? Wouldn't that be smart? Like, I don't know, that's what they would have done in old Trek, but there's probably so many people they have nowhere to put them. But they should still make an effort and do that until they can figure out a way to stop this avalanche. So they have the brilliant idea of having both their starships dive into the sand nose first and create a huge barrier force field with both ships. This stops the avalanche from killing the people, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. One, I'm surprised the ship didn't like break apart, diving nose first and everything. But it's sand, so I guess it wouldn't do that. But then again, Voyager crash landed on the ice planet, but it was going at high speeds. I guess that's a little different. But still, it's just kind of stupid to do that. And both ships are near each other. So shouldn't they be a little bit more further apart to create a huge bubble and everything? Also, okay, why not teleport shield emitters down into like the sand and create a barrier instead of doing that? But they wanted a more high action packed scene, which I'm just kind of like, I hate when they do this crap. It's just so unnecessary, and it's just there to be thrills and action packed and all this other crap. And it's just like, I don't need that. I just need Star Trek to be Star Trek. That's all I need. I don't need it to look like Star Wars. I don't need it to look like another action packed movie. I don't need all that flashiness. I just need it to be Trek. And so when Discovery gets back to HQ, Saru and his girlfriend have a very heart-to-heart decision where he's going to take that promotion. And she proposes to him. Honestly, I really wish he could have been the captain of this show, just like he was a couple of seasons ago, because he turned out to be one of the best additions to this entire, show, if not new Trek altogether. And so, while in sickbay, they are able to discover what the android saw. And Burnham goes to, what's that doctor name with the glasses? Anyway, she goes to his quarters, and he's in the holodeck projection. And there he's looking for a solar system with 2 moons. And so he finally tells Burnham that he needs a team to search for this thing, and she's not going to be included. But she does what she does in a way and works her way into the mission. And he finally tells her what's going on, which was a twist of all twists I did not see coming and was never in the trailer. So I'm glad they left this part out. So they go all the way back to TNG, the Romulan who discovered this alien tech along with Captain Picard and some other aliens. It's that one episode that left off on a cliffhanger that was never resolved. This alien species, they're now, the Starfleet's calling them, I think, the projectors or something like that. They supposedly, with technology, created all of life, which is why so many fans have theorized why do so many alien species look human and everything. And so, like, it was never resolved and they just left it like up in the air, and I was kind of glad when they didn't resolve it because I kind of didn't like that episode. I don't like the idea of everybody being related, but they're gonna now touch on that and I'm like, crap, out of all the storylines, why that, man? So they have technology that created all of life, and this is what the two bad people want and everything. And if they get their hands on it, then there's no telling what they could do. So now a team of like Starfleet officers in different ships now have to go and search for these two moons and the two bad guys and everything. It was an amazing, interesting, and curious twist that they came up with. I just wish they could have came up with a different twist. And so, now the whole season is going to be about finding this. So I guess it's not going to be world ending like it always is. It might be a bit more quieter, but only time will tell. And so, like, that was this episode. Now, I'm personally not going to watch this entire season until Strange New Worlds come out, which I think they say Strange New Worlds isn't coming out till next year. So if that is the case, I'll probably get Paramount Plus a lot earlier than expected. I just need to get rid of some of these streaming sites that I'm on right now. And so I am curious to know where this plot line is gonna go, because like I said before, this was an unanswered question many decades ago in old Trek and stuff. Now, I will say, when it comes to Sonequa Martin Green, I cannot talk. Green, I've always been a fan of hers in The Walking Dead and Once Upon a Time, but when it comes to Star Trek, I don't know what the deal is. Her acting is always off in Star Trek. It's like she doesn't quite like fit, you know what I'm saying? It's just like her acting is always off, which is bizarre because her other projects, her acting is always good. But here in Star Trek, it's just there's just something always off with it. I'm still a fan. I just wish she could trek. It's just her Star Trek acting is just bizarre for some bizarre reason. She overemphasizes her scenes and her dialogue, and it just comes off as odd. And so I wish with the next episodes, I wish they won't go back to season one. I wish they don't do all that spinning around with cameras and lens flares. And that green alien dude, he looks like a Klingon from the first season, but he's not because they changed the Klingons again, which Klingons have not appeared in Discovery since they left them in season 2 and everything. But in the Picard show, they're in Strange New World, they're back to looking the way they always do. So they wanted to utilize that like makeup technique for this new alien species and stuff. I still think he might be Breen because they keep bringing up the Breen over and over and over. And once again, we don't know what they look like outside of their helmets. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.